Yo, what's going on, guys, and welcome back. So I've already done a video on when I was at the SANS in-person course, because I've taken many SANS courses, but that was the first in-person one I've taken because COVID obviously caused a lot of virtual courses, and that's kind of how I got used to taking a lot of courses. So anyway, I wanted to go ahead and talk to you guys about what to expect when taking higher level tests, like high level certs, rather than, like your low level security plus and things like that. I'm talking like SANS certs. Okay. So, first things first, if you guys like this content, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. I know that these videos recently haven't been as technical, and that's kind of on purpose. And the reason for that is because at the beginning of my channel, I was doing technical, and like showing all these skill sets. And then I noticed that there's like 90% of the questions I get are, how do you get there? How do you get to the top, right? How do you get to the higher level, higher echelons? And these are how. So when I say that, this is going to be a little bit more walk you through some of the steps and things like that. But obviously, we all know that, Security Plus, and then, you go maybe CEH or EJPT, whatever, however, whatever path you take, right? That gets your foot in the door. That gets you a security analyst job or a junior pen tester or something like that, right? We all know that path. The problem is everyone knows that path, right? Me telling you that, because I get that question all the time in Discord and stuff. Me telling you guys that doesn't help your path, because you already knew that if you did a little Googling and stuff like that. What separates people is real world experience. That's what separates people. I'm sorry, but it's just the reality. And everybody says, well, how can I get real world experience if you won't hire me, right? Well, the reality is, this is one of the few jobs you actually can do that. 100%. There's bug bounties out there. That is real world. Now, that's web app pen testing. It's different, but it's still pen testing. So there's bug bounties out there. There are virtual labs all over the place that you can, there's competitions all the time. Win the competitions. And I know you're saying, well, there's people that are real. I don't care. Win the competitions, okay? I have multiple coins from SANS for winning competitions. Those are real world hands on. You can say, look at this, I physically did this, and they can't dispute your skill set because you physically did it. Okay. Now, usually what happens is you get a lot of people who ask a lot of these questions. They get going on it and they realize it's hard. So then they add, they have an excuse, their kid, whatever, blah blah, whatever. They have an excuse. That's laziness. That's all it is. So when you get to the higher level, when you're at that mid-tier level, that security analyst, security engineer, and you're trying to get to the next level, you're almost there. What do? That's when you start looking at these SANS courses, okay? These SANS courses are very expensive, okay? Everyone knows that. They're not hiding it, and there's a reason for it, and you'll understand that reason as I go through this video. So a lot of people say it's too expensive, it's stupid, they shouldn't have them at this expensive. I 100% disagree, okay? And the reason I 100% disagree is because of the quality of training versus other courses. And this isn't a sponsorship. This isn't I get nothing from SANS. I don't care if they give me anything. I don't want anything. This is 100% reality, okay? And when I say that, go take a practice test for SANS and tell me the reality of it is not 100% more realistic than a CompTIA test, okay? Now, I'm going to tell you why. Number one, it's open book, okay? So why is that important? Well, given the right amount of time, here's why I like these tests a lot. Given the right amount of time, anybody will be able to pass the test if they have the material, okay? Here's the problem. Here is the material. If you guys can see, there we go. Okay, here is the material, and you've only got 4 hours, okay? Now, a lot of you say 4 hours is a long time. It averages out to like 2 minutes a question. Okay, something like that. The problem is there's also whichever test you take, 10 to 20 hands-on questions. Now, this is where it separates you. These are not hands-on questions like CompTIA says, where they give you a little like drop down and you're kind of selecting a few options and whatever. That's not what this is. This is, they give you a virtual lab, a virtual machine, and they say, hey, there's a SQL injection, find it and give us the answer, right? Which users are exposed in this SQL database? And you have to go in and do a SQL injection and enumerate that data and get them those answers. That's a real world scenario, and they really do it in a virtual machine. They do not simulate it. They do not make you answer a couple questions. It is legitimately, you have to do it, okay? And now I don't know the grading 100%, but from my understanding, the virtual questions, the ones that the hands-on questions, are graded separately, and you have to pass both the hands-on portion and the question portion, okay? So to me, this is way more, because I'll tell you this. The regular test took me about 2 hours, okay? This is the most recent one I did. It took me about 2 hours. So you're thinking, okay, you got 2 hours left. The hands-on portion took me about an hour and a half. And now, granted, could I have flown through it and probably got it? Yeah, but I wanted to make 100% sure, because these tests are so expensive, you don't want to have to pay to take it again. So you're taking your time, you're making sure. And the other thing is, there's certain tools that are slow. So there's times where I might be doing it, like I used SQL Map recently. There's times where that thing is going to go 1, 2, 3, and then give you a character, right? 1, 2, 3, and then give you a character. And you're sitting there waiting, and it might run for 20, 30 minutes. Well, the reality is you're taking a test. This isn't, but you have to wait. If that's the route you go, you've got to wait. So that's what I like about the test, is they give you all the tools, but they don't tell you how to do it. And you have to do it however you want to do it. If you want to go through, if you want to go through and actually try and figure something out, if you want to, whatever, you can use PowerShell, you can use Event Viewer, you can use whatever you want. And you take these tests and you have to do them, right? So that's what I really, 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 really think separates these certs from regular certs, because this proves, if I hire someone with a SANS cert, I know for a fact you physically at one point did this, versus if I hire you with a, CompTIA or CEH or whatever, I know that you at one point knew the knowledge. You read about it versus doing it. There's a difference. There's a huge difference. So that's why I recommend 100% SANS, but they're expensive. They are expensive. Now, the reason, again, I say that I think they're worth the money is because of the fact that you're getting hands-on real labs. Those cost money to run. Okay, I'll tell you right now. Those tests, I bet they've spent, I don't know this for sure, but I bet they've spent probably $1 million on creating the tests. And the reason I say that is because they're all virtual machines in every test. And they've had to create those scenarios and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right? The other thing I want to say is, when you get the books, right? This material is unbelievably good. And not only is it unbelievably good, it's unbelievably up to date in real world. And when I say that, what I mean by that is, for instance, if you take one of their courses last week and something new comes out, it's added in the course. Okay. They are always updating those courses and keeping them to real world. I can tell you this, perfect example. I just took the last cert I took. They taught us a technique for cloud. Okay. That exact technique I used during a pen test, literally 2 weeks before that. I mean, like right then. So that was a real world technique that they're showing you right then. Now, the problem is, a lot of certs claim that they're real world techniques, and they used to be, but they're usually a little outdated because they update the certs every 2 years or whatever. SANS doesn't do that. They keep them updated all the time, so you're always getting real world content. So that to me is worth the money, because I'm not claiming I have knowledge of how to do something. I know how to do it. Okay, so that's a huge benefit. But what do you expect when you're taking these tests? Because like I said, they're all a little bit different. I don't know. I can't speak on all of them, right? Because I haven't taken all of them. So I don't want to say they're all 4 hours, but generally it's like 4 hours. You get, I don't know, like I said, a couple minutes of question, and there's always some hands on. But the real bread and butter comes in, it's open book, okay? And why do I love open book tests? Not because I can just read a book, but I think it simulates real world way more because you're not memorizing ports, you're not memorizing in-map, you're not memorizing whatever. You need to know how to get from point A to point B, and that's it. And that's what they simulate, and it's real. And what I mean by that is when I'm doing a pen test, when I'm doing a try hack me, when I'm doing hack the box, you think I sit there and I just code or just type nonstop? I'm looking at Google, I'm looking at attack framework, I'm looking at everything. I mean, I've got documentation, I'm looking at everything. And the reason for that is I don't have memorized every single thing in cyber. Nobody does. It's not realistic. I don't have PowerShell commands just memorized every single one. Nobody does. I have cheat sheets. I'll show you here. These are some of my notes that I took, and or not notes, I'm sorry. These are some of my cheat sheets I brought into the test with me. And like, I'm looking for I had a PowerShell one here. And I'll show you guys, but like here's a PowerShell one. Like, I don't think you can see it, but it's just cheat sheets, right? I have these things all over the place. You can get them all over the internet, whatever, however you want them. The other thing is what to expect when you take this. This is, I'm not going to show it to you, but I have, you can't really see it because the camera's liking it, but I have 5 or 6 pages of indexing. What that is all these books are spread out into obviously categories and things. And it's open book. So the faster I can get to the information, the better. So what I do is I index, or I go through and I have a cheat sheet that says this technique is in book 1, blah, blah, blah. This technique's in book 2, etc. That saves you time. So use those, index them, do what makes sense to your brain so that you'll be able to find that information. I actually didn't know people complain about this until recently. Someone, literally my Discord, just told me that they keep hearing people complaining about indexing their own books. They feel like that's not, like, they're paying, you should index it. That's laziness, 100%. They're giving you so much good content and you're complaining about having to categorize it for yourself so that you can use it to take a test. That's laziness. But either way, the content you're getting is worth it, 100%. I can't stress that enough. But what to expect when you're taking the test, okay? I took this one from home. I actually was going to take it in person. I prefer to take tests in person. I don't know about you guys. I prefer to take them in person. I was going to take it in person, but there's no training centers near me for this specific test. So I would have had to drive like an hour away. And I was like, it's already a 4-hour test. I don't want to drive an hour there, take 4-hour test, drive an hour back. That's 6 hours of my day. I just don't want to do that. So I scheduled it at home. It's slightly different if you've taken some proctored tests. They use Proctor U, I think it is. But anyway, it's slightly different than like a CompTIA proctor test or whatever, because each one has their own little things, right? Like some of them, the camera has to be over so that it can see the keyboard and all that. This one's not like that. This one, they do have software that runs on your machine that checks for extra monitors and stuff like that. So it is an actual more intrusive proctoring. And then on top of that, you're going to actually show them the room, obviously. They're going to do all that, clear off your desk, all that stuff. But then you get breaks in this test. But every single time you come back from a break, you have to show the room again and show everything. So keep that in mind, that if it annoys you, maybe don't take a break, that type of stuff. I will tell you, time management is a big part of this, which I think is another real world skill that a lot of people lack. And I think is super important, because one thing I've noticed in the real world happens a lot, even in Try Hack Me and Hack the Box and all that stuff. People go down rabbit holes and they just don't stop. They might go down it and they just can't get off of it. They think for sure this is something, and they might spend an entire day on it. And next thing you know, you're like, what'd you find out? They're like, it was nothing. And it's like, so you wasted an entire day on nothing. And I think that's a skill set that is super important that people need to realize. Okay, you need to put the right amount of effort into it, but if it doesn't work out, get out of there. And now that's not, there's a difference between pen testers or pen testing, excuse me, and somebody trying to find an exploit, right? So like when you're on a pen test, you're not looking for 0 days, right? You're not looking to go, let's try and dig in their DLLs and see if I can do. You're not necessarily doing that because you're using techniques that you know work to get that product to the person, to get their answers to them. Okay. Now, if you say maybe that'll work, you could take that out and go do that on a lab somewhere, and spend weeks on it. That's different. That's engineering and things. That's totally different. That's trying to find exploits. That's awesome. But on a pen test, you got to understand the company's paying you for, let's say, 2 weeks, right? It's your job, your duty to spend those 2 weeks giving them the best analysis you can. And if you're spending a week of that on one problem and then you're like, oh crap, we don't have time to test everything else, let's just run through it, you're screwing them, right? And yourself. So just keep that stuff in mind, that time management is huge in the world and huge in this industry. So that is pretty much what I want to talk to you guys about, is just what to expect when taking a cert for SANS. I know that a guy in my Discord actually just recently said that he was talking about taking the bachelor's degree. I know they have a master's degree and stuff like that. From my understanding, it's their course is very, very, very similar to this. They're just at a lower level for the bachelor, obviously, than the master. And so as you're going up, they're going to get progressively harder, but their courses are similar, and you still have to do all this stuff. Now, what I will say is, the other thing to expect is, if you see people that are GIAC advisory board members, those are people that got 90% or above on the tests. Okay, so the tests are extremely difficult. They are they're very technical, but they're also very broad at the same time. I know that doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, I'm kind of contradicting myself, but what I mean is, there's very technical parts of it, but you also have to know the reality parts of it. And what I mean by that is, like, so I'll just give you an example, right? Like, so like, let's say you find an incident happens in your network, right? Like, the part of you that understands that malware can spread makes you want to instantly be like, quarantine that machine and get it off the network so that nothing can spread, right? But the reality is, that's not good practice at all. In all cases, I'll say in all cases, because sometimes it is good practice, but it's not good practice because you want to see what they're doing. And I know that sounds so contradictory, because it's like, why do I want them to keep staying in my network? Well, what if they're on 7 or 8 machines and you don't know it yet, and you quarantine that machine? Well, now they know that they're there, and they're going to start being much quieter, right? That's just one example. Now, what I'm saying by that is, the test is very technical. So it's like, okay, how do you find this, whatever, right? But then there's also those high level concepts that are, I don't want to say mistaught, but misunderstood. I'll say that. And you're getting real world scenarios, real world concepts, real world, and I can't stress real world enough. And the reason I say that is because every test I've ever taken, and I have a lot of certs, every test I've ever taken has never been that close to a real world scenario. They might have a scenario that happened, whatever, but the actual skill set to do it on the test, you could be basically like a system administrator and probably pass a lot of these tests. And the reason for that is because it's usually drop downs. It's usually like, what command would you run? And then it gives you 4 answers. Like that's not real world, right? Whereas like these tests, they're giving you a virtual lab with Linux. So like, if any of you know Linux, if I'm trying to run a command and I'm like, I can't get the syntax right? Like, I can use the help menu. It's real world. This isn't a trick. They're not trying to see, they're using real world. And to me, that simulates a much better experience for a real world. And so I think that SANS is by far, I mean, they blow everybody out of the water, in my opinion. This is 100% my opinion. Some people might argue. Now, if you're looking at tests like the OSCP and stuff like that, those are 100% hands-on. Obviously, there's a report and stuff. That's a different category because that is such a specialized, specific test. That is not a industry test. That is a specific test. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys, but basically, I'm excluding tests that are specific for one thing, okay? Because that's the whole point of the test, right? Like, so just keep that in mind. But that's what to expect when you're taking one of these certs. You will have a ton of books, a ton of cheat sheets, a ton of indexes. You will have a ton of stuff in general. And you need to take all that stuff, know it. The better you know it, the faster you can get through the test as far as going through. Know it. And then the other big thing is know that they have cheaper options. For everyone that's saying, I could never afford it, they have cheaper options. Keep that in mind. They go to all different countries. They go to different places. So, for instance, like I had to fly out to mine. You don't have to do that. You can wait till they come to you. You can take online. You can take on demand. The other big thing is you can also do their student teacher program or whatever it is, and it cuts the cost. I saw someone on Reddit say like they cut the cost, but barely. They cut it by 75%. I mean, that is, if that's barely to you, that's, I don't know what to say. On a $10,000 course, you're getting it for $2,500. That's a huge cut to me. But anyway, keep that stuff in mind. These are the best certs. The other thing to keep in mind is GIAC, who actually runs the certs. They don't have books. They don't have material. You can't just go get material. You have to take this course to get the material. So I don't love that, but I also understand it, but keep that in mind that if you buy a book, you might be able to find one of the books on like eBay or something, but you're not supposed to do that. So if you buy it, maybe it's good, maybe it's not. I would not take third-party books and stuff like that and bank on them being good. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Let me know if you guys have taken these certs and understand what I'm saying. And if you haven't, I highly recommend you start looking into them, saving up. These are not certs that you're going to take, oh, I took one this year, I got one next year. You could, but it's not going to help because they're all in different industries. So you're really not doing yourself a service by like being a special or an expert in none and a general knowledge of all. It doesn't help much. But these are certs where you can really start to change your skill level from medium to advanced, right? So hopefully you guys like this content. I am going to go back and keep doing more of the technical stuff. I've been throwing in a lot of 10-minute tutorials, which are technical as well, and I'm going to keep doing that. But I want you guys to be able to, the whole point of this channel was to help people that need to progress their career further rather than help. If you're an advanced level pen tester, you're probably not watching my YouTube channel to get higher level skill. Okay. And that's not a diss on you or me. It's, I don't cater to that. It's a small group set. So there'd be no point in helping you. You guys know how to find, if you're an advanced level pen tester and you do pen tests often, you know how to find the advanced level skill set material. You don't need me to come out and say, hey, here's SANS. You've never heard of them. Like, what's what. So I'm not catering to that. I'm not giving the information to you. But I do think it's important that we all go back and review basics at least, every now and then to familiarize yourselves with stuff that we maybe forgot about or don't think about or whatever. So again, let me know what you guys think. I hope you guys all have a great day, and thank you guys so much for the support. Thank you guys, and thank you so much, and have a great day.